Welcome, everyone, to the Carr Speaks podcast. In today's episode, I get the opportunity to sit down and talk with Dr. Christopher Parker, the president and CEO of the NJCAA. The NJCAA is the National Junior College Athletic Association, of which I am a product of and very proud of it. The ability for myself to be able to, out of high school, go and play at a 2-year college where I was able to not just work on my skills as an athlete, but better myself as a human being and learn about myself, be surrounded by great people and great coaches and mentors that were able to help guide me in my life and help direct me in a path that has ultimately led me to where I'm at today. And so in this episode, we talk about things from how the college world is changing in sports. College athletics has changed so much, from the open portal with kids being able to transfer in and out of NJCAA to 4-year schools, back and forth to any school they want, and how NIL has evolved, the ability for players to actually make money on their name, image, likeness with brands that they can market for and promote on social media and be a part of that. And this is the ability for these young athletes to learn these real world skills of what it's going to be like for them outside of college. And so with this being a place of passion for me, I was thrilled to be able to have Dr. Parker on my podcast and be able to discuss these things with him from someone who is sitting at the very top of the organization. He gets to see from a bird's eye view how the world of college sports is evolving and how we can make the strongest impact possible with these young kids, and which is ultimately the goal. It's the goal of every good coach. It's the goal of every institution in the NJCAA, and it's the goal of everyone that works on the team at the administrative level as well. And so I was very honored to be able to have Dr. Parker on my show. I am grateful that you are here to watch and enjoy the interview. I'm Will Carr, and I'm here to fire you up. Welcome, everyone, to the Will Carr Speaks podcast. I am super excited to be here today. I'm going to have another awesome episode. I've got a good friend and a person who I highly admire that I'm going to be talking to today. We got Dr. Christopher Parker, the president and CEO of the NJCAA. For anyone that doesn't know, that's the National Junior College Athletic Association. So this is 500 some plus 2-year colleges, the United States, and all of their athletic departments. And so I'm really, Dr. Parker, man, I'm just excited to have you on and chat. How are you doing today?
I'm good. Always good to be with you and hear from you, and appreciate you being the best part of the NJCAA, one of our former student athletes.
Yeah, man. It's one reason why I'm super passionate about, working with you guys and being involved with the NJCAA. Obviously, it was a big part of my life path and helping bring me to where I'm at today. And, I just love seeing these young kids get the opportunity to do things that make a positive impact in their lives. So yeah, man, I just kind of want to get into it. Like, what is, obviously NJCAA, you guys are growing, you guys got a lot of cool stuff going on. Like, what's some of the things you're most excited about with what you have and what the things you're working on kind of behind the scenes in the NJCAA right now? I'm going to kind of leave a really, really open-ended question there for you to go whatever direction you want.
I mean, like you said, there's so many, and I've got a team that works really hard, that's putting their best foot forward to really see us through these things, from our marketing, partnership with ESPN, to the storytelling, to the NJCAA Hall of Fame that's brought to you by the NJCAA Foundation, to just 57 national championships, really focused on all of those things. And it's just so many moving parts. And a lot of people ask me, well, how do you throw everything into the fire? Because we have a constant cycle that's going to go every year, and we're just adding more stuff to it on a yearly basis, and just trying to keep our heads above water most of the time. But like you said, when you get to do something you enjoy and you get to do something you're passionate about, it makes it that much easier to be successful.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, you probably don't get a lot of time to interact with the kids one on one, I'd say. Do you, or is that a false assumption?
No, I that my very limited. I spent from the time I went to college until I took this job. I was on a college campus and in some role, or university campus in some role, and it used to be that day to day interaction with students, student athletes, all those things, and in this role, the only time I really get to see them is our national championships or some special events, and it's different. Again, it's you have to keep in mind we're representing 70,000 on a regular basis, so when you see those couple thousand a year and championships and that kind of stuff. Like I said, it's good because you kind of reinvigorate you a little bit. Basketball is obviously kicking off here with national championships soon. Swimming and diving starts this week, so it's a lot of those things. When you get to actually see them in action, you remember why you're spending all those hours and time doing that because you're representing all of them.
Yeah. Did you say there's roughly 70,000 athletes in the NJCAA?
Yeah, roughly 70,000 student athletes, roughly 5,000 coaches, of course, over 500 athletic directors and trainers and sports information professionals. So yeah, I mean, it's quite a group.
And how does that compare to like the number of like 4-year college student athletes? Is that lower? I don't know. So I'm
So
curious.
the NCAA has about 1,100 colleges across its dynamics. There's
Between
probably
D1 to
D2,
D3.
that's correct, and it's over 100,000 student athletes competing in all of those. The NJCAA, again, somewhere between 65 and 70,000 student athletes competing. So it's, like I said, personality-wise, it's pretty strong.
Yeah. And so you said that, prior to really taking on this role of being the head of the NJCA from the administrative corporate level, you were on campuses all the time. Can you just kind of walk like what was your background? Were you coaching? What were you doing, prior to having the role that you do now? What was your involvement with college sports at that time?
So coming out of undergrad, I was coaching, planning to go to medical school, and took a sharp left turn and
Yeah, I'd
ended up
say.
coaching Division I baseball. Had a couple GA positions, and then I found my way to the 2-year college level for about 10 years, and did everything from a college VP to dean, athletic director, coach, you name it. And then I actually left the NJCA for a couple of years and went to the university, a D2 university for a couple of years. I'd been on the board of the NJCAA for about 7 years, learned my way, had a lot of things. And I've been in this role since 2017, hard to believe. But yeah, so I was on the campus literally from the time I entered college until 2017 when I took this role.
Yeah, that's when you moved the headquarters out of beautiful Colorado here and took it down to Charlotte.
That's right. We got out of the mountains into the bustling city. Yeah, it's been good for us. The business propositions have made a huge strength for us with connectivity. Obviously, Charlotte's a major airline hub. For American Airlines, we can get to about anywhere we want to, except for Colorado Springs in one flight. So it's unique, but the move's been good for us. It's really allowed us to grow and prosper.
Yeah. Well, how would you say your experience on the college campuses when you were getting a lot more direct, exposure and working with the athletes in a much more like hands-on way? How has that really like guided you and helped you as far as leading the NJCA from the position that you're in now?
Yeah, I mean, I think it gave me the perspective, hands on. Again, coaching junior college baseball, working with baseball players, soccer players, golfers, softball players, you name it. You understood the challenges and the day to day opportunities that existed. And putting those together. So when I came into this role, that was one of the first things I tried to remember the most. It's like we have a job to do. Obviously, running a national organization is a heavy lift, but we run it to support our student athletes, to support our coaches, to support the people in the field that are doing their jobs. And when you put that into perspective, you think about the ways to operate, the ways to function, the ways to position our national championships, outside opportunities, organizations such as USA Sports, those kind of things. So keeping that at the forefront is always the biggest opportunity for us to remind ourselves why we do what we do.
Yeah. Cause I mean, I can only imagine being in your spot. I feel like I can relate. I'm sure there's a lot of parallels between doing what you do and running a startup like myself, doing, having I call them teammates, that I work with and, that are helping me run and manage my business and to have that passion behind it, like really wanting to make a difference and really wanting to make an impact with these young kids in particular, it's of course, I'm biased towards it because I'm a product of the NJCAA and it had such a positive impact in my life. Still, some of my best friends are people that I played with, and my junior college basketball coach is a man I highly admire and respect, still keep in contact with to this day. It's like that's not an opportunity, that and as much as it sounds like 65 to 70,000 kids is a lot, it's really not an opportunity that many kids get because for the 65 or so thousand that are there, there's at least 10 times that were high school athletes that never get that chance. You know, so I guess with our, the focus being on how can we make a positive impact in these young adults' lives, what are some of the things you really focus on? Like, what are some of the initiatives at the NJCA outside of just, making sure that they have good coaches and have resources? Like what's some of those ways that you guys really try to make sure that you're setting these kids up for success long term?
Yeah, I think that recently really resonates with the transferability from 2 year to 4 year, whether that's going to the NCAA, the NAI. So many of our baseball student athletes go directly to Major League Baseball. What are those pathways? What doors are open? And so developing those relationships, keeping those modes of communication in a positive light, and really creating synergy. That's the ticket. Because again, not every student athlete wants to play 4 year college athletics. I mean, if we give them the best experience for 2 years and they're happy with that, then we've already won the battle. But then if we can also help them get a degree, they get that 2 year degree, we've even won another battle. So when we look at that from a societal standpoint, everything that we do, we're trying to enhance an individual. And what people often, I stress to people is we have a college in every inner city that you can think of to every rural part of America. We have a college sitting in that you can be a part of. So it doesn't matter your background. We are an ecosystem that supports and sustains any student athlete who wants to be a part of it. And nobody else can say that. Nobody else can say that because of the way we're structured. We're there to support you, whether you come out of this 4 year institution, whether it's your first time going to college in any capacity, whatever it may be, we are there to provide that opportunity. And our motto, you can see it on my screen, is opportunity start here. And what do you want that opportunity to be? And you're a prime example of what that opportunity became. I mean, you went from a junior college elite basketball player on to ultimately play professional basketball overseas to doing startup companies. I don't know how many you've had now, to that. And that's a story. That's a story, but for the NJCAA, but for junior college, where would life take you?
Yeah. Yeah, man. And I feel that. I mean, and it's, one thing that I think is really unique about the NJCA, and this is somewhat just my personal experience, but it's also something I believe, to be true as a whole about the NJCA. It's just the quality of the people that are involved in those institutions because, you mentioned that like now we're seeing a lot of like baseball players, for example, be able to go directly from the NJCA into the minor leagues and get involved with these major league organizations. No, that's not true for most sports. So for most sports, it is this ability to, you know, have these young athletes who are now being given this opportunity to be surrounded by good mentors and good people that are going to be able to set them in the right direction. Cause like even you mentioned like the inner city, like I had a lot of guys on my team who didn't have necessarily the solid foundation of like the upbringing that I did, or like the really, I had a really, really solid family and safety net there, that allowed me to, and that's helped allow me to be able to do a lot of things that I've done in life. But for a lot of players and people, even I would say some of the guys that were on my team, like our team was possibly like the first real like productive family that they had ever been a part of, where like it was not like it was good, like they could learn to trust, they could they really had people that they could rely on and knew that they could rely on. And, I think that that's something that personally I really, like about the NJCA, because I don't think you necessarily always get that in the 4-year schools and some of the higher level stuff where it's really, really focused on the money aspect of what some of these, and obviously, I mean, no disrespect or anything to the big schools, but it's just a different dynamic.
Most of the time, you hear about the 2-year college kids having a chip on their shoulder. You know, they
Yeah.
feel like they were left out at some point, and they take that and they run with it, and it makes them better people, it makes them better students, it makes them better athletes, and they go on to be very successful because that was a motivating factor to really kick them in gear. As again, having that chip on the shoulder that, so and so left me out, or I didn't get this opportunity. Well, they come in, they work their tails off, and next thing you know, they're the elite player on ESPN that you're watching. That kid went to a junior college. What? Like, yeah, that young man or woman played at a junior college, a 2-year college, an NJCAA school, and made the most of the opportunities, and now they're the elite.
Yeah, yeah. Well, one thing that's really changing in college sports that I'd like to dive into is, and you mentioned it a little bit. Yeah, I mean, you just mentioned it in a passing comment earlier, but it's the transferability and just how there's this open portal, that kids can. It used to be way different for kids to just transfer schools so easily. How have you seen the way that college sports is evolving in the last few years change the dynamics within the NJCAA?
With the unlimited transfer rules, the not having to go 4.24 for many student athletes, that elite student that, may leave a Power Four institution isn't coming back right away. Their first choice isn't to go to, you know, elite junior college for a year and then jump back. What we're seeing is the mid-major student who's getting left out is now like, okay, my best route is to possibly go back to a junior college. And our coaches have to coach harder. They have to do more to get them back to that level that they started, or that student athlete wants to be at. And you see that develop really over time. And it's been a hard change for coaches because again, they were used to picking off. Even when I coached, you go to 10 Division I schools and say, okay, who's not going to make your roster? Who's kind of in limbo? Send those to me, and I'll get them back to you. Now we got to kind of wait and see. It's the last straw per se to see what's kind of floating out there that our coaches are trying to grab a hold to really make the most of. And it requires more work, it requires more effort, and it requires a little better coaching. And that's what we're starting to see.
Yeah. And ultimately that little bit of harder work and that's and them having to work a little harder from the coaching standpoint should ultimately make better experiences for the kids because they've got to compete more. They've got to do certain things for these athletes to motivate them. So, I mean, that kind of leads me into my next question. Like, what from the junior college standpoint? I mean, I think when we talk about things like NIL, which, for anybody listening to this, you probably know what that means, but it's name, image, likeness. It's basically, a rule that's been changed within the last, I don't know what, 2, 3, 4 years that allows athletes to do sponsorship opportunities that they weren't like that we weren't allowed to do when I was, going to school. And, I think a lot of that is focused around, like your really big schools, like your SECs and Big Ten type conferences. We think of like, there's certain players, like I even think the quarterback here and at CU, is getting some type of like almost 7 figures or something. Obviously, we're probably not seeing seven-figure deals at the NJCAA level. But how has that changed? How do you see that affecting the players differently and the quality of their experience, and how's that affecting your role as, running the NJCAA from the standpoint that you are?
So it's twofold. My friend Coach Matt Doherty, he says NIL stands for now it's legal. Mhm. That's that's one. Yeah, that's one dynamic that's different.
Man, that's gonna be a clip for the YouTube shorts right there.
But Open Doors is actually our partner in the NIL space, and behind NCAA Division I, the junior college actually has the second most engagements in NIL. Again, we're talking $500 deals, $100 deals, $1,000 deals. But again, when you talk about community junior college, $1,000 goes a long ways for a young man or woman in that situation to food, housing, whatever it may be. So again, we know that it's there. We know that it's kind of working like it was intended to, when it was originally kind of proposed versus basically the pay to play model. It was, there to incentivize, provide some extra money type of things. It's definitely there. It's definitely here in the junior college realm. Like I said, no, you won't see that. You will see the elite junior college football players and basketball players when they're signing day. You'll see that they've been given some pretty lucrative NIL compensation at where they're signing and where they're going to a 4-year school. But yeah, like I said, it's there. It's real. Like I said, it's a lot of deals, much smaller deals, impactful deals when you really look at the details of the situation. And people say, well, what's $1,000? Well, $1,000 to that individual in that particular situation, it may actually be life changing money.
Yeah. Yeah. And I think, that's partially what makes me so passionate about the NJCAA in general is that these are opportunities that, like you said, it actually is life changing for them, versus, some of your big athletes that just, they don't care. They're having people throw money at them and they're getting free stuff all the time. Like, it doesn't affect their life so much when they get some type of opportunity. But for these small college athletes, I mean, that's their that's their ability to put gas in their car. Like that's their ability to not be stressed as a college athlete. I mean, and because in the NJCAA, if I remember correctly, and if this has changed, I'd love to know. But at the Division 1 level of the NJCAA, you can get your tuition, housing, books, everything covered. At the Division 2 level, I think I was able to get just my tuition and books.
That's correct.
Yeah. So for an athlete like that, that extra $1,000 or something, that's paying for their living expenses. Like that's paying for their rent. There's probably, I remember living in a 3-bedroom house with 4 guys. And those are some of the best memories of my life. But if we could have had opportunities like this, it would have definitely, eased that burden
You would
because
have been the master of NIL endorsement.
I would have figured it out, I think. Oh man, for the longest time, I'm going to tell a story here. I had this picture of me in my junior college, John Wood Community College, Quincy, Illinois, shout out. And the Quincy Herald Wig had taken this picture of me and I'm like hanging on the rim, right? And I'm just like gritting my teeth. And they put that on the side of every Quincy Herald Wig, like, those boxes that you can open up and like get the newspaper. I was on like 15 of those all around town, man. That was like, and even so going back, they left it up for 10 or so years. I just happened to be there at the right time when they were putting new boxes out. And man, to feel like a local legend, that was, and in today's world, they would have had to give me, $1,000 for
Absolutely.
that, in which I hold no grudges there. It was still really cool, but yeah, but that's the opportunity that these kids have now that we didn't have, 12, 15 years ago or whatever, maybe I don't want to do the exact math of how long it's been. But it hasn't been that long for me. I'm still pretty young, but yeah, it's just cool to see because, the kids deserve it, and I'll even just say like, would that have changed my life? Probably not. I grew up in a very like stable situation where, we weren't, it's not like I wouldn't say we were rich, but we were very stable. And so, but for a lot of the athletes in the NJCA that didn't grow up in as privileged of a position as I did, that would really make a huge difference for them. And so I think that's really cool to see now. So do you have, I mean, so I'm very familiar with Open Doors. I know a lot of the guys there. It's a great organization. I mean, I'm even doing some stuff with them myself with my protein bar. Do you see are there a lot of like businesses and stuff that come to the NJCA directly to try to do stuff with the athletes, or are they more just going directly through a platform like Open Doors?
Yeah, they're all of those deals are brokered on the campuses with the individual student athletes. The Open Doors is monitoring those, evaluating them, giving them the, the necessities for things. So yeah, all of those deals are directly through the colleges or individual deals. We just have a partner that we endorse. Again, just
Yeah.
have to be Open Doors. So again, using that to make sure that the student athletes understand if they make so much money, they got to pay taxes, they got to do this. So it's those little things in life that, as this became a new era of income for students, that most four-year college students didn't even realize they needed to take care of this stuff when it first came to be. So it's how do you protect them for the long haul?
Mhm. Yeah. And I imagine are you seeing like a lot of that type of stuff consolidated into some of the more like high level football and men's basketball and stuff, or are a lot of those opportunities getting spread out across a lot of the sports?
No, it's I hate to say it, there's a couple schools that have published their stuff, major four-year universities, that it was like you broke down their NIL, it was like 80% football, 15% men's basketball, 3% women's basketball, 2% everything else. It is at the elite level, it is definitely concentrated in football and men's basketball. Again, there are some that are more equal, and there are some that are kind of out of whack. At our level, it's really kind of all over the board. We've got volleyball players, we've got numbers. So again, it's small numbers, but it seems like the equity and the opportunities exist more at our level than they do that elite level because of the amount of money you're talking about.
Yeah. Yeah. And it probably has something to do too with like which kids actually have somewhat of like are spending the time to build out their social media presence.
Yep.
Because, from a brand standpoint, like I probably care much less whether you are a men's basketball player or, women's lacrosse or, I don't, or women's soccer or something, as I care about, do you have 300 followers on Instagram or 15,000? Because do they have the ability to actually promote you or not? So, yeah, it is very interesting how it's evolving. I think it's evolving for the best. Like, and I love to see the way that's because it is also teaching kids like real world applications of how to be entrepreneurial, how to promote yourself, like how to build business, and then they have to figure out stuff like you said of okay, well, if I'm making so much money, do I have to like put some away to which I would say, and I'd love to hear your comment on this, is probably one of the biggest gaps of what is going on with NIL right now, is that financial education piece.
Yeah.
So
It started as the biggest gap. I can say that it's starting to close a little bit, and
okay.
that's because so many people realize that it was missing. And again, when you think about everybody's high school education, you know, w- we didn't teach anybody, including ourselves, our own generations, how to manage money, how to file taxes, how to do those things. And so you take an 18, 19, 20-year-old individual and you give them a bunch of money, they're just standing there looking like a deer in headlights. And so
Yeah.
both the NJCAA, I can speak for the NCAA and the NAI in this, have made it a objective to make sure, try to close that gap of educational attainment around these types of common needed skills to be a good, successful human.
Yeah, I mean, I would even, obviously we're doing a podcast right now talking, but I'd just love to say that would be something that I would love to talk to you about in further detail at some point, how I can help with that. I think even, you talk about how to make sure you know how to file and pay your taxes, but also let's teach these kids because they're all 1099 making this money. Like, I also want to see them know and understand how to use things like write-offs and stuff to make sure they can keep as much of it as they can. Because especially for the ones that it's, if $1,000 is life changing for you, having to give up 40% of that is also a big deal. So, if we could help teach them how to, use things like simple LLC structures and write-offs and stuff to be able to keep more of that for themselves, I think that'd be something that'd be beneficial for them. Because I'll just share a story. I'm not going to say the school, but one of my best friends, he's a basketball coach at a mid-level D1, and they've got about $750,000, budget to pay their athletes and stuff. And, he told me like, we were talking this past summer and they had just signed a kid to like $150,000 deal, right? And he's like, Will, the next day he posted on his Instagram story that he bought a Tesla. I'm like, in my mind, I'm like, no, like, no, don't do that. But unless the kids have the education of understanding, that's exactly what they're going to do because they don't know. They don't know any better. They just got handed 150 grand. Like, I'm going to go buy a new car. Whereas if we could, if they could start to get some of that education, they could take, if you make 150 grand for 4 years in college when everything else is really being paid for too, you can have yourself set up pretty nicely by the time you graduate, whether or not you get to play professional sports or not. So, but yeah, I mean, it's cool to see that college sports is evolving in that way where the kids can really get some value for what they're doing and for their ability to be marketed and brands and the schools themselves to be able to use them. So, yeah, man, uh, question out of right field here for you. If budget and the NJCAA had a unlimited money tree, what would be one thing that you would just love to see implemented?
I mean, I'd love to put every one of our games on premier streaming platform. Again, show the quality of competition in all of our sports to anybody and everybody. Again, most of our schools have some type of streaming for a majority of their sports, but put all this together and blast it out there so every young high school student who's thinking, I have to go D1, they can look at this and say, oh my gosh, I could play junior college baseball in Florida and they're not recruiting against their other colleges. They're recruiting against the junior colleges. Like understand that and put that out there. That'd be a pretty big opportunity to showcase the talent that exists.
Yeah, because I think there is this like gap between people realizing just how good the talent is at these levels. Like I mean, I remember when I was beginning to get recruited and I had really good mentors and stuff around me that would say, focus on the environment, focus on the system. Like, don't get caught up in, thinking you're going to play at some high level or whatever. Like, focus on who are your teammates going to be? What quality of people are they going to be? Like, and where is that going to set you up for the future that you want? And because the competition is there and it's real and it's good, like, and it's fun. It's fun to watch. Like, so yeah, I think that would be awesome if the more and more that we could see on TV. And I would even say like, the world is moving to such a place where mainstream TV is getting whittled down by these online streaming services. So I'm sure we're seeing a move in that direction. And a lot of these teams I mean, I would say it's moving in the right direction, wouldn't you say, of
Oh
what
yeah,
you're wanting to
absolutely,
see there?
absolutely. Like I said, it's moved. We have our first ESPN contract. It's definitely moved in the right direction. It's just like I said, we have to keep growing it. We have to keep pushing. We have to keep telling that story so that again, young men and women who get to their last game of their high school career and they're thinking it's over. Like, no, there is an opportunity for you if you want it, and keep pushing that. That's probably the biggest wish that if I had a genie in a bottle, we'd say, here it is. Let's make the most of it.
Yeah. You're not going to do the generic, I just wish for more wishes.
No, no, we get three, and we got to make the most out of those three.
That's good. Don't get greedy. That's a good one. Well, let's talk a little bit about the convention just to wrap up. We've been a little over 30 minutes here. This has been a great conversation. I'd like to, you got the NJCAA annual convention coming up here in less than 2 months now, man. Like seven or how many weeks until like
Probably 6 weeks.
6 weeks. So that's going to be fun. I'm going to get to be there and, we're going to get to hang out. I'm excited to see you in person, man. It's been a while and, see some of the other team and the NJCA family that I really love. But let's talk about the convention. What are some things that you're hyped for about the convention, and anything like new that's going to be there? Like what excites you the most about the annual convention?
The most exciting thing is actually getting to see the people you work with on Zoom all year long. You work with these people on a computer all year long, and then the convention comes around, you actually get to see them and engage them in person. It's like, oh, you're real. Yeah, yeah, I can touch you. I can have a conversation with you. So that's always exciting. The camaraderie, like I said, it's there. It's that engagement. We've done a lot of things to include professional development as well as the exhibit hall for those of you like yourself who are going to be there showcasing your products and your goods. So I remember colleges. So it's an experience now. It used to just be just kind of a business meeting. You come, you do, you check it off, and you go home. We want it to be an experience from the time you arrive to the time you leave, and a good experience. What did you take away? What new people did you get to meet? What did you learn that you can take back and make your campus better? What products, what goods, what services were you able to capitalize on that's going to save you money in the long run, and you're going to be able to provide that for your student athletes or your coaches, whatever capacity. So it's a long, stressful week for our staff in particular, but it's like I said, it's the culmination of everybody coming together and being there. So it's an exciting week for us too.
Yeah. Yeah, and you said there's gonna be about 400 or so people there, and
Yeah, we expect about 400 people in attendance. That's anywhere from college presidents, college ADs, commissioners, coaches, vendors, sponsors, partners, special guests. You name it. There'd be about 400 or so people there. Again, all for the betterment of the NJCAA.
yeah. Yeah, which ultimately just provides a better environment for these young athletes that we're trying to give good opportunities to. So, um, yeah, man, well, I'll be excited to be there and hang out with you and the NJCAA fam and meet as many people as God will bless me with to be introduced to. So that's always one of my favorite things, man. Is just meeting people and talking, hearing people's stories and talking about how good life is. So I think that type of positivity and mindset it goes a long way. And then you get around other people who are excited about and passionate about what they do too, and it's just all everyone amplifies off each other. So
Yeah, that like I said, that camaraderie, like I said, when you get it going, it'll blossom and bloom real quick with what's going on. So yeah, look forward to seeing you and know that your energy is always going to bring a good life to the party, and
let's go.
that we appreciate. Like I said, you're an alum, so you've experienced it all. And when people always ask me, like, what does it mean? I was not a NJCAA student athlete. I worked at an NJCAA college for 10 years. I coached, I was an AD, all those things. But I personally was not an NJCAA student athlete. So I can't tell you what it means to be a student athlete. I can tell you my impact from it being a coach and administrator, but the most impactful situations are those who lived, breathed, and experienced being an NJCAA student athlete like yourself, and who share that with others, because that's where it matters the most.
Yeah. Yeah, man. Well, I'm proud to be a NJCA alum, and I'm glad that I can, represent the organization well. And like I said, it's because it's true. It made a positive impact in my life, and it's helped me get to where I'm at today. I continue to be grateful and excited to be able to give back now and be a part of it for the 70,000 student athlete, man. I'm gonna be blown. I didn't realize it had gotten that many, but it's wild. Yeah, man. It's been great. Been great talking to you, and really appreciate you coming on my show and talking about, college sports and the way all the things that are evolving and changing and yeah, look forward to more conversations with you soon. So
Absolutely. Appreciate you having me. Again, to all those out there watching, check out Will's stuff. He's an awesome alum. Appreciate his support and his willingness to always be a champion of the NJCAA. So thanks, Will, for your time, and look forward to seeing you at the convention.
absolutely. It's gonna be fun. Talk to you soon.
Take care.
I'm Will Carr, and I'm here to fire you up.